What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and I'm joined on the other line by PA native. I got Rich Yoder on the side. Rich, welcome back to the show, man. Well, actually, this is a first time for you, but it feels like, one, following you on Instagram for quite some time now, talking to our good buddy Aaron Hepler, I feel like I know you, even though this is our first time really getting the opportunity to chat. So even though we're not familiar from the side of things of actually meeting and talking, you are familiar to me, so I'm excited to finally get a chance to talk to you. And man, what a start you already have gone on for this 2024 season. So we have some really good things in store for this conversation. So hey man, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. And same thing. I mean, Hepler, I've got several friends that I feel like are my friends because of Hepler. It's funny how has that ability to do that. But yeah, it wasn't that long ago. He literally was like, hey man, Jeremy's going to reach out and have you on. And then even last week, because you know what we're going to talk about, I mean, I called him right after. I texted him. I was like, dude, we're going to have a good show next week. It's going to be fun. So
yeah, dude.
Cool. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So just to kind of paint a picture for, I don't know, have you been on any podcasts or anything ever in the past before?
Not necessarily hunting related podcasts.
Yeah.
So this would be like kind of a start. Hepler and I recorded one a while ago. I don't know if that ever made it out. But this is probably the cherry pop right here. Yeah.
Nice, man. Well, dude, so let's do this. Let's do a quick, I guess, brief introduction of who is Rich Yoder. And because, I mean, what's awesome, what I find fascinating is a true woodsman in yourself. I would put you in that category because you don't only just whitetail hunt, you do a bunch of different things, and you're very skilled at it. So, who are you, and what's your story, brother?
So, Rich Yoder, from southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm an electrical contractor, and also I do a little bit of land investments. And of course, on my, I don't want to say spare time, but on my fun time, I like to chase game, whether that's, of course, hunting in the winter, sometimes in the summer. And then also I do a lot of fishing in the summertime whenever I can, but usually we're pretty busy. But I lay a lot of focus on the hunting. I had worked in the hunting industry when I was younger on the waterfowl side of things for about 10 years. I worked for a small call company in southeastern Pennsylvania for 5 years. And when I left that company, I joined up with Zinc Avian X at the time. And I was with them for, I want to say, 6 years. In that meantime, they had gotten bought out by Plano Synergy. So we went from, waterfowl and turkey, slightly predator, to everything across the board that Plano Synergy owned, which was anything from, Barnett crossbows, wild game innovations. So I got to see and do some really cool stuff at that point. We went down a slight rabbit hole. My best friend Justin and I, my hunting travel buddy, I want to say in 2017, I think it was, we had done a hunt, learn, compete event in Illinois for whitetails. Shot some bucks, got it all on film, won that event, and we were like, oh man, let's be cameramen. So we went down like a 1 year rabbit hole. We were with the Bearded Buck, that's based out of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
We were with them guys for about a year. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm a contractor, so I've got things I got to attend to first before playing. And Justin's super busy, and it just didn't pan out for our future. And that was honestly 2017, 18. I always whitetail hunted. I was really heavy into waterfowl up until that point. And once that bug kind of bit of the more serious whitetail hunting, then we got a lot more serious into the whitetail hunting since then. And then also since then, we kind of got into the predator side of things. Now that's kind of learning my way through that one. But that's where we're at.
Nice, man. That's a lot. And what's funny is like you said, you've had that experience of in the quote unquote industry of making some sort of your livelihood in the outdoor space, which is, I think any outdoorsman would be lying if they're like, no way, I wouldn't want to do that. Right. Like you have a chance to meet people, network, all that type of stuff in some form or fashion, which is really cool. And, like you said, you had the opportunity with the Bearded Buck guys. I feel like, man, the filming side of things is so tough, especially at a higher level of expectations, broadcasting, that type of stuff. I mean, that's a full-time gig in itself. And like you said, man, nothing's ever promised. It's a hard thing. And man, I always say to young individuals, man, if I was 20, 20 years old at 24, no family, no kids, all that stuff. Like, man, I'd be traveling and doing whatever, sleeping in cars, all that type of stuff, and getting a chance to do that and hunt that. But man, where I'm sitting right now, 37 years old, it's like, man, I got that 1 week where I can maybe take off and go do a out of state hunt or something like that, especially now with the baby and everything like that. So it's definitely it's a challenging different breed for sure right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And even so, I would definitely say, like, on that, because there is a lot of opportunity from the filming side and the creativity side anymore. And I really truly believe we were like 1 to 2 years that we kind of played that game. I'll be the first one to admit, like, I'm the jerk in that time frame. I self-filmed 2 bucks getting shot off a camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember one time I was talking to a guy. I shot a 142 in Maryland, and last minute hunt. I know the outfitter really well. My wife just graduated nursing school, and she's like, babe, I'm going to send you on a hunt. She's like, is there anything you can jump in on last minute? And there's a really good buddy of mine that's a very big taxidermist out this way. And Aaron literally just like blocks time out at different outfitters.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been buddies since I think I was 20 or 21. And I called him like, hey man, you got room on this whitetail hunt? He's like, we got 2 spaces. I said, all right, I'll go. So Thursday of the week, just how luck would have it, I'm basically staring at a swamp because we're in Eastern Shore, Maryland for 5 days. And I look up and here's this buck just standing there, and he's already peering out into the actual like holly, hardwoods, and did my best to move around, and he wasn't having it. So he got shot off camera. And I had a buddy that asked me, and he was in the industry, and I said, I think I really messed up. I said, I shouldn't have done that. And he goes, would you do it again? I said, oh, absolutely. I said, I wouldn't move the camera. If the deer's going to bust me, I'm going to shoot the deer every time.
Yep.
And he goes, this industry's probably not for you, bud. You're right. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, that's the hard part, man. Like I've always said from the very get-go, 5 years ago, every time I've ever tried to self-film myself, like last year was finally the first year I got one on film on a doe here in PA, and it was all the other years, man, it always turned into like, oh, I don't see as much action. Like, what the hell am I bringing all this crap out here for? Or it would be the heat of the moment would just take over, and I just say, screw it, go kill this thing or whatever. And finally, like last year, I was like, just take it with you. Get it on film finally, man. Like, cause if not, like, sell all your stuff. Like, why are you still lugging this around? And I finally did it. And it's really neat when you actually have that opportunity to go back and look at footage. Like I said this on the podcast with Kurt Delatry 2 weeks ago, where I was going back looking at the turkey stuff from this past year, and it's like, man, I get a chance to relive that, even though I haven't posted that anywhere. It's just really awesome to go back and see that, or mistakes, or just filming a hen that was only 15 yards away and it zoomed in all the way, and just seeing just everything. It was just really cool. And I have it's definitely a creative outlet that I thoroughly do enjoy at times, even though it does feel like it's a big pain in the ass.
Yeah, it can definitely be a hindrance. And I think like getting your system down is the most important part of that, because it's definitely one thing to, if I'm going to go in and film you, if I'm running a DSLR, maybe I've got 2 lenses, a camera arm, 1 or 2 GoPros, I've got headphones, I've got a shotgun mic, you're mic'd up. Like, it's a lot of gear at the end of the day. Let's throw in a camera stand, maybe Ozonics, it's a lot. But when you're self-filming, it's just about like, how minimal can I make this, and how point and click can this possibly be? Because that's the way to do it. I'll tell you, somebody who blows my mind every time is John Collins from Fox Pro, shooting coyotes, self-filming, where he's knocking down 2-3 coyotes at a crack. And I'm like, he's sitting in the open. He's got a camera on a tripod. He's shooting a rifle off a tripod, running the call. Like, every time I'm like, I want to be behind him. I just want to watch. Just to see how this goes,
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Some people, though, are just so talented with it.
Oh,
and, dude, all right. So that's kind of our I guess our little rabbit hole soapbox of self-filming, and great introduction of who Rich is and where you're coming from. And man, I want to ask you just to let listeners know right off the rip, you've already filled a couple tags, so we're not going to get right into it. So what tags have you already filled? Because then I want to talk about the build up to these hunts. So let's talk just to hook, line, and sink these individuals listening. What tags have you already filled already this year?
So I filled a Kansas muzzleloader tag on an antlered deer, an antlerless deer. I filled my PA buck tag, and I filled one PA antlerless tag.
Yeah. So already with 4 tags, 4 deer under his belt, and we're sitting here October 2nd recording this evening. So statewide Pennsylvania didn't even open up yet, and you're sitting already pretty with 2 beautiful bucks down already. So to get leading up to this season, Rich, what was your, I guess, how did you prepare? What were your expectations and approach going into this year, knowing obviously you were going to Kansas, all that type of stuff? So what was the buildup going into this year?
So, and just to give an example of, like, say September elk hunting, like when we go out to Idaho, or if we're going to do any early hunts, I try to get all my PA gear washed, ready, the bow's shot, broadheads are tuned, like everything's ready to go before I leave, because I know that my focus has to be on that first hunt. And I will say, in this case, it being a muzzleloader hunt, not that I'm not super familiar with my muzzleloader, but I was really trying to push the limits on distance for what I had. So I put in a lot of extra time doing so ahead. But I was able to make sure, Bo was shooting actually this year. And I rarely say this because I'm not like a phenomenal bow shooter, but like usually I don't question a whole lot of my bow shooting. But this year I felt like really good with my bow shooting before we left. And then we literally shot our muzzleloaders one last time. The truck is packed for Kansas. We hit the range 2 miles from my house. Justin and I both shot at 200 yards. And then at that point, like, I buried the hatch and I felt amazing. I was like, we're golden. Like anything 300 and under is getting dumped. So mainly gear prep, not a whole ton. I mean, shooting in the backyard, but the not so much a preparation, but more of a fear that I typically have when I'm going to do an out-of-state hunt, which is, of course, work. So I don't always know what my work schedule is going to be coming back. And I'm the kind of person that no matter what, I'm probably not going to miss a whole lot of days that first week of archery. For me, that's the best time to fill the freezer. If I have a buck that I think is consistent, that's going to be the best time to try and kill him. But usually my first week of archery season on the Southeast and special regs is I try to put 3 does in the freezer that first week, and then that's done. That's out of the way. Yep.
I like that. That's I always felt like in years past, it was always like, oh, let's get on deer, and kind of had that same philosophy, like not necessarily a quantity number of trying to get a doe, how many doe down or something along those lines, but I would say the last 2 years, my mind frame has been like, let's get in on deer. And if that leads to a shot opportunity, fantastic. If it leads to knowing an area a little bit better, fantastic. But like last year, and I feel like that mentality really led to great opportunities. It allowed me to be a little bit more efficient. And it was like the time I put into leading up to that as well kind of helped play a role in that. So kind of backtracking a little bit. So leading into the PA season, like you're saying, you go in that early regulation time frame. What kind of scouting do you transition from, like, hey, I do this for this time period and this other spot location is for another time frame, potentially late October into November? Do you do anything along those lines?
So in the past couple of years, I've really focused on the deer herd, like the swing. And around us, we've certainly got some, not, I don't want to call it like mountainous, but we can go from, let's just call it, a couple hundred sea level where we're at here to we've got 1,000 foot, we've got 1,200 foot, which isn't big, but 1,000 foot is 1,000 foot in Pennsylvania. So most of it is farm country. And one thing that we do have a lot of in our area is we've got a ton of oaks, all species. We have got, which I don't believe everybody's blessed with this, but we've got American chestnuts, not the originals, of course, they're probably Chinese chestnuts, but we have got so many farmettes that had, a chestnut tree where one chestnut tree from, what they'll tell you about food plotting, one chestnut tree will produce 1 acre of food. So you can literally watch the cameras swing between chestnuts, apples, and oaks, where, you got a beautiful clover plot and there's 12 deer in it every night. I mean, it's like a switch hits, like August 20th through the 25th. It's like they're gone. Somebody took them off the earth. They're gone. They're not, but they're somewhere else. So coming into that time frame, like, I truly feel like the hardest swing is, and the hardest time to kill deer, that green feed or field feed going to the mass crop. When you go to that mass crop into that middle of October, where, they're kind of leftover acorns, browse, leaves are dropping, bedding's changing, crops are coming off. Like, it's kind of a, little bit of a scramble till they get situated where they're going. And especially in our area, like, for me, I actually want to say my biggest piece of property that I hunt down here is probably at 100 acres. And like, my average properties, like, I hunt my house, which is new to us. We bought this house last year, had a slammer come through multiple times last year on my property, 3.25 acres. And I have one trail on that property that, I mean, if I had a month off, I'd probably shoot a 140 there. You just got to plant your ass every day. I've got a 3.25 acre property, 29, a 5. That's where I shot my PA buck on a 5-acre property. A 63, and a couple other just random size ones. I've got a 5-acre property that borders a river that years ago I had consistently the biggest 8-pointer I've ever seen down here. Couldn't get him killed, but we're in a pretty interesting area here.
So let's hit Kansas first, because that obviously happened first. So how can you walk us through that situation, that hunt? Like, what was the plan? How did it all unfold for you?
So it was an outfitted hunt. My buddy Justin knows the outfitter out there, Hickory Creek Outfitters, very well. He's duck hunted out there with them. He's deer hunted out there with them, done family trips out there. They talk all the time. And that's kind of how I got involved in doing this hunt. Was Justin was like, you want to do a low stress early season, muzzleloader hunt? Absolutely. So we go out there and they have some serious deer out there. And everybody basically is, you're getting kind of a quarter piece, or you're going to hunt your half a piece, and everybody's fairly spread out in camp. They had 11 hunters, which is a lot because of the draw. He typically only would have 5 guys for that season because of the draw. So first day, he shows me the deer that I'm going in for. And I'd probably put him in like 160s to 170s. And I just said, Adam, I said, I'll shoot whatever deer. Like, if you put me on a deer, I'll shoot whatever deer you want me to shoot. I said, I'm not telling you I'm not going to shoot one that looks good anyway, but I'll shoot, if he comes out, he's going to get it. So he kind of jokes, and he's like, maybe, so the gentleman said, hey, what caliber deer do you want to shoot? And I said, honestly, I'm not the guy that's like, I need to beat my last deer or, shoot X size deer. I said, I'm here to have fun. I want to be successful. I said, and I don't want to be stressed out, waiting for a 180 by the end of the week that might not show up. That's not fun to me. So he just kind of looked at me. He's like, I got a deer you might be interested in. And I said, well, I'll shoot whatever you want me to shoot at him. And he goes, I got Old Faithful. I'm like, okay. He says, well, Old Faithful might go 130. I said, I like 130s. And he says, all right. He says, we'll see how it goes. He says, maybe I'll put you in on that deer. I said, whatever you want to do. So I hunt the first morning, and I've got loads of stories about, I call it my deer luck, where the craziest things happen to me of outside issues, not even that have to do with the deer, just the weirdest things happen to me. So I'm in Kansas, opening morning of muzzleloader. I've got 2 bucks in front of me. One is only like 110 inches. The other one, I really can't tell because he's back in the trees, and I'm looking through the binoculars. And all of a sudden I hear something banging, and I like look out to my left, and I can't really see anything, but something is really banging, and it's getting close. Here come these linemen in with a truck and a trailer. They pull in on this field edge within about 120 yards of me. And like, that's 7:30 in the morning, opening day. So we're done. That's it. They're going to work on this power line today. So they pick me up and tell them what happened, and all good. No big deal. So That afternoon, I get in the truck and I said to Adam, I said, all right, we're swapping stands because of, morning, night, blah, blah, blah. We already talked about the wind. And he smiles and he looks at me. He goes, nope. He says, you're going for Old Faith. He goes, he showed up this morning. I said, all right, that's fine. So lots of activity, plenty of does I saw, a couple scrub bucks, does fighting. It's good night. And about 20 minutes to last light. And he said he's going to come in at last light. I said, okay, no problem. About 20 minutes to shooting time. I just catch movement out through. I was kind of in like a meadow situation with little tree islands. Catch movement, and I throw the binoculars up, and there's 3 bucks coming, and one of them's him. And I'm looking at this deer, and he already sent me trail cam pictures. And like even the trail cam pictures, I was kind of like, that deer looks better than 130, but like he's better than nose buyer than I am. Like I don't, this is his game. It's 130. I believe it. So I'm looking at this deer, and I'm like, that deer is not 130. Absolutely not. So, just run through the motions, take the gun up, don't bang on anything, stay calm. And when he gave me a shot, I shot him. It wasn't, I wish I had a crazier story, but literally shot him. He ran. I heard him crash and let them know I shot one. And I was the second one to shoot a deer on that trip. But he ended up being better than we thought. He had some kickers. He had a split G2 we didn't know about. He ended up being 143. I was tickled to death. That's my biggest deer anyway. Ended up being my biggest deer by an inch anyway. But I was super happy. And I'm a big fan of, I don't want to just say low stress. I'll deal with some stressful hunts. That's totally fine. I'm in. But when it comes to a hunt like that, like I just want to go have fun. It's the first hunt of the season. Let's knock the dust off. I'm going to be satisfied with any deer that I'm able to take, and I'll be super happy about it. And the other thing too, and not to sound, I don't want to say this, and I'm not saying it wasn't difficult. There was some guys there that absolutely hunted their tails off, but Kansas does not have any restrictions on the muzzleloaders. There was guys in camp shooting muzzleloaders that are more accurate and more powerful than a 300 Win Mag. And them guys can shoot to 700 yards. So I don't want to come out of this and say like, oh, I should have shot a bigger deer. Or if I would have shot a 160, I would have felt super accomplished. You know what I mean? It's an early season deer, very patternable. I'd probably feel better about shooting a New York 110, with a stand on my back with a bow. But I was absolutely thrilled. So it was an excellent start.
Well, but like you said, it was low stress. You're there with friends.
Yep.
You are, knocking the dust off, like you said, and you're just in a different environment. You know what I mean? And you're in Kansas. Like Kansas is one of those premier whitetail states that a lot of people want to get to and go to. But I mean, I like the fact though of how can you take that low, and I know what you mean by that low stress of not really working yourself up and letting things just play out the way they play out. Like when you're telling me that Lyman showed up and blah blah blah, and you're on a like technically on a what would you say, not a guided hunt, but like what I mean, like you're in that situation. Like how many people not in your position would be pissed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the first, as soon as you're telling me that, I'm like, oh my gosh, how would I react? Like if I'm paying money, I don't want Lyman to show up in the middle of a hunt basically in this situation.
Yeah.
So like when you think of that, you kept your cool, you're able to go, you know what I mean? Keep yourself level headed. And I think that plays a role in what you do in every hunt. It's how do you get that way? How can you not let stress overcome the situation? And that's that goes into hell, even the heat of the moment, right? Like that's where a lot of people struggle. And something in years ago on the podcast, like every time I would talk to really successful hunters, it's like, how do you manage that? Just because there are times where I struggle with it, and I feel like I'm getting over that and over that, but it's at the same time I continue want to work and get better at it as well. So yeah, I that's a really cool way to kick off a low impact stress level inducing kind of hunt where when things go your way, it's a very fun and reap the benefits and the rewards of that, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I will say for sure, like one thing, and I don't know your buddies, anybody have ever mentioned this, but I am a big believer in, no matter whether you want to say, if you go on a 1 week hunt out of state or out of town, we'll say, but if you're going to say pick a hunt, and I also break that down to the PA season, like I will tell you, in my PA archery season, I can account for one opportunity I will have at a buck that I want to really shoot. And I literally think that even when you go on a hunt, 9 out of 10 guys are going to get one opportunity at a shooter or at an animal that they want to take. And I feel I've talked to too many people where, they picked the binoculars up when they should have just picked the gun up kind of situation, where it's like, oh, well, I was assessing him and looking at him and I picked the gun up, or I went to grab the bow and he saw me, where it's like, if you saw him coming and you already thought that he was good, you pick the gun up first. So I felt really good just knowing that it played out that way. It was a great deer. I didn't botch up the shot, perfect shot. My nerves were good. Everything went good. And that really helps start the season with confidence.
Oh my gosh. And like you said, so now you're coming home to PA full on a good high, like, let's get going. I'm ready to rock and roll here. And you're in that, like you said, you're already in the unit that allows you to hunt earlier. Now, I guess talk about like leading into that PA session. Like you said, your main goal is to try to get 3 deer down early and get rolling. How did that mind frame switch to you to maybe go in a little bit aggressive and go after a buck right off the rip?
So I'll start from the very beginning, because it's actually it's a lot different than what you might think it is.
Yeah. 5 acres, like you mentioned earlier too, which is awesome.
Yeah. So this piece literally it is perfectly groomed. The grass gets cut by a professional landscaper every week. There's lines cut in the grass. I happen to know the landowner very well, and they allow me to hunt there. So there is 10-acre piece behind it that I can recover deer on. They don't care if I hunt the edge, but that landowner has buddies that they hunt that. So it's not that I can't step foot on it, but I don't push my luck there. So I stay on the 5. So there is 3 chestnut trees and 2 apple trees on this 5 acres. And every year up until now, I've gone the first week, taken a doe for the past, I want to say 4 years since I had gained permission. And I literally go out there with my lone wolf stand. I put 1 stick up, I put the stand up, and I literally shoot these does at 6 to 8 feet off the ground at generally less than 10 yards. Like that's been a learning curve too. I will tell you, there is a point where I feel like you can actually be too close to shoot a deer. So that's the general scope of what happens here. So rarely do I get bucks there. I might even not run cameras at that property. So this year, this all started by the landowner sends me a cell phone picture of a good buck. She walked right up to it and took a picture of him walking away. And I was like, whoa, that's a pretty darn good deer, especially for her backyard. So maybe a week later, she texted me and said, hey, he's here again. So then I thought, well, I better put some cameras out. So put some cameras out. That was going well until about 5 days before I went to leave for Kansas. So I am running spy points. They've been pretty darn good. And not that they were bad for this situation, but I generally have pretty good luck with them. I do run lithium ion batteries. I always, cards are formatted, updates are done, ready to go. So I put 1 cell camera there. Within days, I get that big buck on camera. Cell camera dies. Go back out there. All right. Swap the battery pack. Turn it back on. Leave. Doesn't send me any pictures. All right. We're not messing around now. Go back out there. Swap the camera with another camera. That one lasted a day. Died again. I thought, okay, we're done. I took 2 more cameras, went out there, aimed them in the same direction on different fence posts. And 1 camera's working flawlessly. The original location camera. Now I had left for Kansas at this point. Batteries die. So now I'm texting the landowner. And she's never touched a trail camera in her life. And she's like rooting for me to get this deer. She's like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to change the batteries? I was like, if you want to, please. She says, no problem. What does it take? So she changed the batteries for me while I'm in Kansas. Unfortunately, when she did that, it readjusted the height of the camera. So I had to bug her again to lower the height of the camera. And just like that, while I'm in Kansas, this deer is there every single day, whether it's every day, every night, every morning. So fast forward to Saturday of the season opener, my buddy Justin, we're in Kansas, and the goal was to leave at 9 a.m. on Saturday, drive home. I had to drive home basically straight through and leave to go to Cape May for a wedding Sunday. So outfitter, them being good friends, says, Justin, you didn't shoot your buck. Why don't you stay? So we rearrange everything. We figure this out. So at 10 a.m, I leave Kansas on my own. Drive straight through to Wheeling, West Virginia, slept 30 minutes in Wheeling, West Virginia, drove straight home, 30 minutes at home, drove straight to Cape May, had a good wedding day, stayed up probably a little too late dancing, got some sleep Monday. Now, Tuesday is the first day that I can hunt. And of course, Monday, I'm not feeling good. I'm tired. Again, stayed up too late dancing. That buck is there eating apples at 6:15 in the afternoon on Monday. And I'm just like, don't get me wrong. I probably wouldn't have pulled the shot off even if I would have went, but I was kicking myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have been there. So I go Tuesday night and I check the weather and wind, everything's supposed to be good. Probably about 5:15, first deer come up. And usually there, you're going to get your spikes, your forks, your button bucks, all the little scrubbers are going to run up to eat the apples and acorns. And I mean, they run. Like, it's pretty impressive. When you see a deer coming, they're running to get the food. So we start going through the deer. And when I say going through, they are winding me like it's their job. Like, I couldn't even believe it. I mean, I'm dropping milkweed. The wind is good. You put a deer under me, wind swirls, blowing, running, horrible. I saw 4 bucks that I would have shot that night. There was 3 other 8-pointers past their ears, kind of like that 110 category where if he is under me at 5 yards, I'm probably going to shoot him. They all winded me. So I'm thinking that I'm done. Like, I screwed this whole deal up. So we get to be 20 minutes before dark and it's a rainy, kind of misty evening. So I have a 4-corn and a 6-pointer come up, and now they're eating apples and they're not blowing out of there. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty much out of time. So whatever, enjoy, guys. I'm going to have to, play the old dog bark on the phone to get him away. And just like that, I see that big deer running up the hill. I mean, just like the little deer. I mean, he is at a full gallop coming up this hill to get to this apple tree. So get up, I get my bow, I get situated, and I'm running out of daylight pretty quick. So without me forcing anything, he does readjust himself to what would have been, I want to say, 20 yards on the button. We're talking within 2 minutes of shooting time. Like, I'm watching my phone in my pocket the whole time. I can barely see, and mind you, I'm in a big chestnut tree. So I might as well be in a ground blind. I can't, it's dark. So he gets to 20, and I'm like, I can make that shot. Well, my mind wasn't quite all there because I think I was a little flustered with him there. So he gets to where I can shoot. I draw my bow. I don't have my shoulders squared up where they should be. And then as soon as I draw and try to find my anchor point, I realize that I need to kneel down because there's a branch in my way. So I kneel down. So that throws me off even farther. Put my pin where it needs to be, break the shot right under him. So I'm not shooting Luminox this year. And I would usually say, like, I should be tuned up shooting Luminox like I normally would. But I believe 2 things. One, the chestnuts raining out of the tree, making that noise, helped me. And also, I didn't shoot a Luminox, so that deer did not see a laser light come flying out of a tree at him. So I literally shot under him, didn't touch anything. He trotted off back down the hill. They blew at me. And I thought, well, I'm done. That was it. That was the opportunity, because that's my one opportunity for the season. So that night, 12:30 in the morning, he's back in there eating apples again. And I just thought, I won't even believe if this is going to present itself again. So Wednesday night, I promised my wife I would go to Muscadine Bloodline Post Malone concert in Scranton. So we did that Wednesday night, and wasn't he back in there again on Wednesday night at 7:30, which was after shooting time. But I'll take 7:30 over not being there at all. That's a chance. So go back out Thursday night, and now this time the wind is actually good. And I want to say it was maybe like I didn't see a deer, and I'm thinking I don't know what happened. The landscaper was there and mowed the grass that day. I mean, I had 500 pictures of him going back and forth. So I thought, well, I don't really know what the deer are going to do because all their chestnuts just got freaking mowed up. I don't know if that's appetizing or if they are not coming. So 6:15, deer start coming. And there was one buck in there that I sent to Hepler, and it's this really high, tight 8-pointer. I mean, he wouldn't score anything at all, but just a really cool deer. And I said, I don't know, man, if this deer comes out, I might shoot him. So we get to about 6:30, and I could not even believe it. Here comes the big one. Coming from the bottom, he marches right up to the apple tree. And about the time that he comes up, here comes that high, tight 8 from my left. So now the big one's under the apple tree. I need him to either go to my left or go far to my right because I can't shoot him. He's at 21 yards, but I can't shoot him. So I'm standing with my bow in my hand, which I would say feels like 20 minutes, but it was. I shot him at 7, and at 6:30 to 6:40 is when I had to pick the bow up. So that deer starts working to the left, and he comes right into my shooting window. There's about, I want to say there was 4 does, a spiky, the high tight 8 under me. And I mean under me, like directly under me, eating chestnuts. And that big buck comes right through my shooting window, and I draw back. And now I know that I can't mat him because everything's going to spook. So I just like keep hoping and hoping he's going to stop, and he never stops. And he literally marches right out to about 24 yards. And now I can't shoot him because there's branches in the way. And I'm thinking like, oh, geez, I just blew my shot at 8 to 10 yards, and we're done. We're done again. So he kind of shuffles back and forth a little bit. And I found it really odd that he was at the exact same spot almost where I missed him on Tuesday. So he finally readjusts and gets broadside. And it was one of those moments where, like, if you were in the tree with me without a bow, you'd be whispering behind me going, come on, man, like, you can make this shot. This is easy. 24 yards, shoot him. So I basically was like, all right, get your shit together here and shoot this deer. So, I got my feet right, turned my shoulders correctly, drew, anchored, did a little pin gappage, broke the shot, and just heard it crush him. And he basically, I call it cattle loping, where they like can't really run. They're just kind of like, loping along, zigzagging, went down the hill. And a couple phone calls later, and we gave him 3 hours. I didn't even want to mess with that. We gave him some time, went back in and recovered him. And that was it. It was pretty awesome. That's my biggest PA buck and my biggest bow buck ever. So I was absolutely thrilled.
Heck yeah, man.
Couldn't believe it came together like that.
Well, do you think that it's so early that food is so prominent that is a key reason why you think you got another really good crack at him?
Oh, 100%. I mean, once I started hunting over chestnuts, like, everybody gets to see deer, whether it be in hardwoods or on a cornfield or a bean field. Like, everybody gets to see deer browse or eat, crop food. Mm-hmm. But when you have that mass crop, whether that's acorns, chestnuts, apple, anything like that, the deer are bedded during the day. And I mean, it's almost like ringing the dinner bell for the kids. Like, they know when that sun cracks down and it's going to be feeding time. I mean, they are coming. It's flat out impressive how they come to that. Yeah. Well, 100%. If that food source wouldn't have been there, it wouldn't have went the way it did.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, like, with such a hot start, what are you planning to keep the momentum going for the rest of this year, man?
So I did take a doe Saturday night. That worked out well. I have plenty more doe tags. And oddly enough, my buddy Justin, he said to me, he's like, dude, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I got some plans. I got plenty of stuff that I've got to do. But I guess I'm probably going to start coyote hunting a lot earlier this year than I normally would. Up at our camp, we have a camp in McKean County, so
Okay.
northwestern PA, and we have got an absorbent amount of coyotes in that county. So the past couple of years, we've been getting permission and learning about the nuances of that, because that's kind of a new style of hunting to me just the past couple of years. But I'll put a lot of focus into that, and then keep filling the freezer. I got a couple friends that I'm probably going to help fill their freezers with, and I'm pretty sure I'll have a New York tag for the third week of October as well.
Nice.
Yeah, we got some pretty good New York ground up around where we're at, whether that's to the east or west. There's a lot of public area up there. So I've never archery hunted New York. I've never rifle hunted New York either, but we're going to be there, and we already had it planned to be at camp for, I want to say, almost 10 days. We have that muzzleloader bear season. So we'll be there for the muzzleloader bear season, put a couple days into that, and then I'll probably jump up to New York and start from there.
So, because that's always such a unique situation that I don't think a lot of people that you hear about really have this, I don't want to say luxury, but this great opportunity where you could really kind of slow things down a little bit, right? Like you've had such good success already, and we just got into the month of October. Like you technically didn't even, you were done in September for your two big main tags. Like that's pretty awesome. So, there's so much to do that I think, in your situation, like you said, predator hunting, going up to New York, a lot of different things now could like shift towards you. And I know it's probably still too early to sit there and say, hey, now do you have new goals, all that type of stuff. But like in this situation, are there things that you like maybe a little bit different that you would really like to try to accomplish? And it could be predator hunting, it could be whitetail hunting, it could be anything. But now is there something new that you want to maybe try to push yourself to try to do for this season?
So this is probably kind of peanuts on the scale of goals, but I already, especially when we go up to the mountains, because we are big as far as kind of like a traditional deer camp. We've got, I want to say, 7 or 8 hunters still that come to our camp. It's a big to do. Everybody shows up on Black Friday. We cook big meals. Everybody has just a blast. So in our area, we have quite a bit of DMAP zones. So we are able to get quite a few doe tags to utilize. So 2 things. One, I've never shot a deer with a pistol, and I've never shot a deer. And I mind you, this is usually how most kids start out, but I've never shot a deer with an open sight rifle. I just never, ever carried one. So I said to myself, okay, well, this year, I guess for, rifle season, freezer's already good to go. So if I don't get another deer in rifle season, that's all good. But I will carry pistol and I will carry open sight rifle. See if I can get that done. Currently in the process of building a shooting hut where our shop is located, where I'm sitting right now in our office. We have a 14-acre piece that is surrounded by 2 roads, and then it's basically kind of like a long swampy area that goes into our town. And my uncle comes home from Wales, UK every year to hunt. He was in the Navy for life, married a girl from Wales, so he's lived over there since I can remember being a kid. So just the past couple of years of having this property, we've gotten to hunt together out of the same tree stand, 2-man ladder stand in rifle season, and he's shot a doe every time. And I will say, it's almost like, I want to pick on him because like growing up, he was the deer killer, like he was the guy that I looked up to. But he doesn't get near, the trigger time because he lives in the UK. So we had never been together to shoot a deer in all my life growing up where it was a controlled environment. It was always, game lands, does are running, a buck runs up to you. You never had time to stand there and watch the deer. So now that I get to hunt with him and actually we watch the deer, I get to watch him. I mean, it's like taking a kid. I mean, he's shaking like a leaf when them deer are coming onto the food plots. And I'm just like, I remember the first time I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, well, you're shaking a lot. He's like, oh, I'm excited. I can see that. So this year we're building a shooting hut. So that way I can kind of control that situation even a little bit more. So I'm hoping to have a good time with him. And I don't know, I might, every year I truly do get kind of an inkling to try and like grab a junior hunter or something like that right around that rifle season. Somebody that's never shot a deer where it's like, hey, let's go do this. I might actually have time to do that this year. Honestly, just because of our friends group, I don't have too many junior hunters that don't have a dad that hunt. So
Right.
finding that person is very difficult because it's all my hunting buddies' kids that it would be, and they have that situation created already. But I definitely think I will focus on the coyotes pretty darn hard. I kind of joked with the guys for camp that I'll probably coyote hunt more than I'll deer hunt on those 7 to 10 days in October. That was kind of an unforeseen bug that bit me a few years ago when they legalized thermals in Pennsylvania. I went on a thermal hunt with one buddy, and kind of since then I was pretty hooked.
Yeah. I never had that opportunity to do that. Just always seemed like a really cool, just different from the side of the things that I've done growing up. Like I've growing up, I small game hunted. I hunted whitetail, obviously turkey, but I've never really even had the chance to go waterfowl hunting. I've never really had the chance to do predator hunting, and the waterfowl one is the one that I really want to just experience just at least one time to see if I really would like it or not. Some of my buddies that do it and they love it. They're like, dude, nothing just beats them coming in and you're just, just having fun, just shooting with your boys and doing all that type of stuff. So that's definitely something that I would like to do.
Yeah, you have got to try that. So I would say, so you turkey hunt, so you know the excitement of turkey hunting, and I will tell you that I'm not the biggest turkey hunter. The first longbeard I ever shot was this past year. Called him in, shot him at 22 yards or something like that. It was awesome. But before that, and don't get me wrong, I would probably still tell you if you said, hey man, you can shoot a Tom with a 12-inch beard or you can shoot 2 coyotes tonight. I'm shooting them coyotes all day long. But take the turkey hunting and then multiply it times multiple targets. Yeah. So, I love duck hunting. I love goose hunting. I was always a better goose caller than a duck caller. So also where we live, we have more access to goose hunting than duck hunting. But gotcha. Man, I always love goose hunting because you could really, if you get good talkative birds, you're blowing the call. And if you know what you're doing, you can really put them in your face, just like turkey hunting. Same deal, and man, when you're shooting freaking 10-pound geese out of the air at 10 yards, that is a ball, especially when you got 5 guys lined up and the barrage goes off.
Yeah.
That is a riot.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. I do like that. So now, man, I like it, dude. What a unique situation. Like I said, out of 5 years doing this, man, I've never really, that I could really think back to sit there and say, hey, like, we're early either with the season beginning or something along those lines where someone was already so successful, like not just filling a buck tag, but like filling 2 doe tags and, getting some predators down and some yotes and all that type of stuff. Like that's so cool to sit here and have this conversation with you. And I'm really anxious to see, man, like doing like almost like a follow-up of like a check-in with you just to see how things are going, just because so much could play out for you. Like you said, obviously the New York thing, but you never know. You could be like, I might go down to Maryland or I might do this. Like you said, I just remember last year for me when October 23rd, when I shot my buck and I knew when I grabbed that bow and I had that opportunity to do that, I just knew like in the back of my head, it's like, man, now I know I could go to Ohio with no pressure. Like we were just kind of talking about earlier, having that low pressure. I could just go and enjoy it. I could spend time with my buddy who I stay with there. We could go on some awesome hunts, see some big deer, experience that, and knowing that I'm not pressed to come back here and be like, oh man, I got to get this done. I got to prove like whatever. Like it's just, there's nothing like that. And my goal is to kind of what you said, man, is just to kind of experience it. And man, whatever happens, happens. And it is what it is. And if once you get to that point, I feel like a lot better things, whether it's experiences, whether you are wrapping your tags around something or not, you just have such better experiences.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I will definitely, probably one thing I didn't overly allude to, which I left like, not that I left a lot out, because of course you don't want to hear my life story, but my wife was sitting here. She would tell you completely different, that I'm not calm, cool, and collected, because the past several nights have been remounting optics, loading ammo for coyote hunting. Like we're still full tilt, but it's on a pretty calm scale at the moment. But one thing I definitely left out, that to go back and talk about the Kansas part of the hunt once. And I'm not saying, I'm not that guy that I just want to, punch a tag to get it done for my own justification. But the feeling that everybody gets in camp, like when people are killing deer or bear camp, duck camp, whatever, when people are being successful, and don't get me wrong, you also know too, you'll gravitate towards your people that are happy for everybody. There's always somebody that's not happy for everybody. But, that is like the greatest feeling, especially when you're in camp and you're just like, man, you've already shot one. Then, the next night you're there waiting, like, oh man, who's bringing a deer in tonight? They bring a deer in, you get to meet them with a drink, and whether you always make buddies when you go on those hunts. But, it is just such a good time, and trying to explain that feeling to people that don't do this is impossible, because they think you're crazy for sure. Not that I want to use it and say like it's like this, wow, it's like this euphoric feeling, but like, man, the days after you shoot a good buck, like you're on cloud nine. You're like, truck broke down, no big deal. We'll get that fixed. Something broke, we'll get that fixed. It's okay. Yep. Yeah. It's like I had that one coming to me. I had my luck.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I tell you what. So we're sitting here. I'm trying to think about it, what kind of order some of these episodes are going to come out in, but for sure, coming out after this one, you're going to hear. Who knows? Maybe you'll hear it after before this one. But for our opening weekend, I had plans of staying here at home, in central Pennsylvania. I'm still going to be here. But I have some friends that we're getting together and we're doing a little camp. And I'll tell you what, I am ecstatic just to be able to see who's going to do what. Like what you just said, Rich, is what I cannot wait for, to see who's going to bring in deer, what are we going to talk about? Just hanging out, that camaraderie. I am so thrilled. Don't get me wrong, I'm so pumped to go deer hunting, finally get in the woods and be in a tree to do that again. But at the same time, I cannot wait to spend time with my boys and experience this all together for like an opening weekend, like to kick it off. I'm just looking so forward to this. I can't even express it, man.
Oh yeah, that is awesome. And again, I hope somebody tags something so that way, you really get that fired up, because and again, it doesn't matter if it's a buck or a doe, anything enhances the mood when it comes to that. And, it's really funny because everybody is busy. So whenever you get into one of these situations, and, usually your home state is the one that I'll say is typically I don't want to say the most relaxed, but as far as your standards of what you're willing to shoot, what you're looking for, usually your home state is going to be the most relaxed as far as that goes. Yep. And I'll be the first one to tell you, somebody rolls into camp with a freaking 30-inch 6-pointer, we're doing a shot. Like I am happier than you could imagine, Yep. And like, I feel like, that celebration of somebody being successful is like that's the goal. That's the goal at the end of the day. Even at the end of time of putting deer heads on the wall, everybody will always remember that moment, like, oh, I remember when, freaking Bobby shot that deer in freaking 14 and we had to go drag that dinky little thing out of the mountain, and it was a pain in the ass. Yeah. You never forget those moments.
No, never do, man. I'm with you. Rich, it's a pleasure having you on. I'm so happy for you already with such awesome stories and such success already. Man, where could people maybe follow, see what you got going on, and anything along those lines that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook, it's easy enough, Rich Yoder. And if you are on Instagram, I want to say that it's Bo Yoder, or maybe like Bo _Yoder 6, I think that it is.
Nice. Appreciate it, man. Well, we're definitely going to do a check-in again midway through the season and talk to, I want to hear what are you seeing in the woods, especially when it's like the rut time, because then you could be like our own little rut cast guys, since you're going to be out in the woods probably doing all crazy thing and stress-free, worrying about killing deer other than some does. So, oh man, I appreciate it. Go check Rich out. Good dude. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Best of luck to you. Antler up.